UK pins hopes on new German law to stem tide of migrant small boats across Channel. London. In a significant development in the ongoing battle against illegal Channel crossings, the British government is banking on newly passed German legislation to help choke off the supply lines that enable dangerous small boat journeys from continental Europe to UK shores. Germany criminalises smuggling facilitation. After more than a year of negotiations and legislative processes, German lawmakers have formally passed measures criminalising the facilitation of migrant smuggling operations targeting the United Kingdom. The law, which represents a major milestone in cross-border cooperation between the two nations, aims to disrupt the infrastructure that enables people smuggling gangs to operate with relative impunity across European borders. British ministers have hailed the legislative change as a game-changer in their efforts to dismantle the criminal networks orchestrating these perilous Channel crossings. According to government officials, the new German regulations will specifically prevent smuggling gangs from storing small boats and marine engines within German territory before transporting them through France for eventual use in Channel crossings. Strengthening international law enforcement cooperation. Beyond the immediate prohibition on storing smuggling equipment, the new measures are designed to bolster already existing law enforcement cooperation and intelligence sharing arrangements between British and German authorities. This enhanced framework will allow investigators and border security agencies in both countries to coordinate more effectively, share critical information in real time, and mount joint operations against organised crime groups operating across multiple jurisdictions. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood expressed gratitude to her German counterpart, emphasising the importance of international solidarity in confronting what she characterised as the illegal migration trade. In a statement, Mahmood declared, "Together with our German allies, we are cracking down on the criminal gangs operating the illegal migration trade. I thank Minister of the Interior, Alexander Dobrindt, for Germany's strong cooperation with the UK in tackling this issue." The Home Secretary further emphasised her government's broader border security agenda. This government is restoring order at our borders by scaling up removals and removing the incentives that draw people here illegally. Record crossings fuel political firestorm. The legislative development comes against a backdrop of persistently high numbers of migrants attempting the treacherous Channel crossing. The first 10 months of 2025 witnessed record-breaking figures for small boat arrivals, although recent data indicates the total number of people making the journey has since declined below the peak levels recorded in 2022. In a notable pattern, official government figures showed no recorded crossings for a consecutive 28-day period before hundreds of people successfully made the perilous journey last weekend, highlighting the unpredictable and weather-dependent nature of these crossings. A political lightning rod. Illegal small boat migration has evolved into one of the most politically charged and contentious issues dominating British political discourse. The phenomenon has become emblematic of broader public frustration with immigration levels and represents what many perceive as a fundamental loss of border control, spanning multiple administrations and prime ministers. Prime Minister Keir Starmer campaigned on a pledge to smash the gangs orchestrating these crossings, explicitly moving away from his predecessor's controversial Rwanda deportation scheme, a plan that would have seen asylum seekers flown to the East African nation for processing. Despite this rhetorical commitment and policy shift, Starmer's government has faced withering criticism for its inability to substantially reduce crossing numbers. The Conservative opposition and the insurgent Reform Party have both seized upon what they characterise as the government's failure to deliver on its promises, using the issue as a political weapon to attack Labour's competence on border security and immigration control. Competing visions for solutions. The political spectrum offers starkly different approaches to addressing the small boat crisis. While the current government focuses on international cooperation and dismantling smuggling networks, opposition voices have called for more aggressive enforcement measures, including expanded deportation programs. Meanwhile, parties like the Green Party have advocated for an entirely different approach. Zach Polanski, representing the Greens, has called for the establishment of safe and legal asylum routes as a means of discouraging people from risking their lives in clandestine channel crossings. Advocates of this position argue that creating legitimate pathways for asylum seekers would undermine the business model of smuggling gangs while reducing humanitarian tragedies. Government officials tout cross-border strategy. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper emphasised the necessity of international cooperation in combating what she described as transnational criminal enterprises. Criminal smuggler gangs operate across borders, so governments and law enforcement need to cooperate across borders to bring them down, Cooper stated. She characterised the German legislative change as the result of our close partnership working to tackle illegal migration and organised immigration crime, pledging to continue to ramp up our international cooperation to strengthen our own border security. Cooper framed the initiative within a broader strategic framework. These are the partnerships we build abroad to make us stronger at home. Law enforcement perspective. Adrian Matthews, Director of Intelligence at the National Crime Agency, Britain's equivalent to the FBI, welcomed the legislative development from an operational standpoint. "We welcome the legislative change in Germany," Matthews said. "It will help boost our efforts against the small boats threat, and it builds on our close working relationships with German partners who are key to helping disrupt organised crime groups operating from the continent." The National Crime Agency has been at the forefront of efforts to map, monitor, and disrupt the complex networks of smugglers, fixers, transporters, and financiers who coordinate small boat crossings, often operating across multiple European countries, while exploiting gaps in international enforcement cooperation. Sharp opposition criticism. The Conservative Party's response was swift and scathing. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp, MP, dismissed the significance of the German legislative change, arguing that it fundamentally misdiagnoses the problem driving channel crossings. Immigrants don't cross the channel because of laws in Berlin. They cross because Labour refused to deport them once they get here, Philp charged. He cited statistics claiming that, since Labour took office, just 5% of illegal arrivals have been removed, characterising this as the pull factor, incentivising migrants to attempt the crossing. Philp accused the government of outsourcing responsibility to foreign governments while doing nothing at home, delivering a pointed rebuke. Germany may close a warehouse, but Starmer still won't close the door. This criticism reflects the Conservative Party's argument that the primary driver of small boat crossings is not the availability of boats or the operational capacity of smuggling gangs, but rather the perceived likelihood of remaining in the UK once arrival is achieved. What immigration scholars call pull factors versus push factors. The broader European context. The UK's small boat crisis does not exist in isolation, but is part of broader migration patterns affecting the entire European continent. Conflicts in the Middle East, political instability in Africa, economic hardship in numerous regions, and climate change-driven displacement have all contributed to sustained migration pressure on European borders. Germany itself has been at the centre of European migration debates since Chancellor Angela Merkel's decision to welcome over 1 million refugees and migrants in 2015 to 2016. The country has experienced its own political upheaval over migration policy, with the issue contributing to the rise of the far-right Alternative für Deutschland (AfD) party and ongoing debates about integration, border security, and humanitarian obligations. The new German law targeting smuggling facilitation represents Berlin's attempt to balance humanitarian concerns with legitimate security imperatives and political pressures from both domestic constituencies and European partners like the UK. The human dimension behind the political rhetoric and policy debates lie deeply human stories of desperation, hope, and tragedy. Those who board overcrowded, unseaworthy vessels for the Channel crossing are often fleeing persecution, violence, poverty, or environmental catastrophe. Many have already survived harrowing journeys across continents before reaching the shores of northern France. The crossings themselves remain extremely dangerous, with numerous fatalities recorded as vessels capsize in cold waters, people fall overboard, or boats run into trouble in one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. Each crossing attempt represents both a humanitarian concern and a law enforcement challenge for British and French authorities. What lies ahead? Whether the new German law will materially impact the number of small boat crossings remains to be seen. Skeptics argue that criminal smuggling networks are adaptable and resourceful, likely to find alternative storage locations, supply sources, and operational methods if their German infrastructure is disrupted. Others point to the inherently international nature of the challenge, suggesting that meaningful progress requires not just bilateral agreements between the UK and Germany, but comprehensive European Union-wide coordination, engagement with transit countries along migration routes, and efforts to address root causes in countries of origin. The Starmer government has staked significant political capital on its smash the gangs approach, making the effectiveness of measures like the German law change critical to its broader credibility on immigration and border security. With opposition parties circling and public patience wearing thin, the pressure is mounting to demonstrate tangible results. As winter approaches and weather conditions in the Channel become increasingly treacherous, the coming months will test whether enhanced international cooperation and law enforcement measures can genuinely reduce crossing numbers, or whether the human desperation driving these dangerous journeys will continue to overwhelm governmental attempts at interdiction and control. The debate over how to respond to small boat crossings touches fundamental questions about national sovereignty, humanitarian obligations, the rule of law, and the nature of borders in an interconnected world. As Britain and its European partners navigate these complex challenges, the stakes, both political and human, could not be higher.